really doing some good work when the enemies of God come for you. On you when they come directly to your podcast. Oh man.
Yep.
That I just, Lord, I love you for it. I love you for it because, hey, it's so sad when people have inadequacy. When people feel inadequate, and the only way they know how to make themselves feel good is by thinking that they're going to create the kind of trauma for other people that they're experiencing. And I don't mean this as a put down. I mean it as it's just a reality of truth. Sabrina, you have a long history in our community with people working out. My first question was just, we're going to get right into it. If you could just wave a wand or snap your finger and make something happen for the One Accord Project, what would that be right off the bat?
I think, thank you so much, Pastor Fisher and Reverend Wade. It's an honor to be here. And I think the things I would want now, knowing what I know, is each church to have their own mental health program for members and support for the pastor. My other thing I would like is for churches to have the resources that they need to be able to do high level programming for the community, um, not piecemeal, that the churches had the resources, be it food programs, be it tutorial programs for young people and children, be it even computer programs for older adults. Just that the church would not only be a place of spiritual development, but it would be for the whole man and the whole woman. That people could look to the church as not only the place of salvation and the word, which is important, but that practical life needs, teaching financial literacy, that all of those things could be found in churches that feel led in those areas. But I
Oh,
want
you,
everybody to have a
you,
mental health program.
can I dive into something what you said? If I know what I know now, what do you know now?
I feel like, particularly after COVID and our churches got such a hit, I think COVID also exposed some areas of weakness in our community and with our congregation. And we haven't fully recovered from that yet. But I think in those areas of weakness, it showed us some things that we could have improved upon, which is not a bad thing. Um,
When you're, I know you report out on some of this stuff. What are you telling your grantors? You know, when you're reporting out, I mean, are they there? There is some improvement, right?
yeah, but we got a long way to go. Um, just for a mental health stat for you to chew on. Suicide is now the third leading cause of death of African American males between the ages of 15 and 24. We've seen a dramatic rise in suicide in the community, that is not going down. Um, and oftentimes, what we also know too, some of the research suggests that over 40% of Black congregants will only talk to their pastor regarding health issues. They will not go to a clinical person because there's trust built there, there's relationship, and then there's the spiritual aspect of the pastor having that spiritual way to communicate. However, if the pastor is inundated with all the counseling and is trying to run his congregation and trying to take care of his own family and meet his own needs, that is a lot. But if there's some way that there could be resources for that pastor to be able to, say, refer out when needed, um, bring someone into the church maybe to do some group work when needed. It can really lighten the load, because many pastors are dealing with a lot of the same concern as members of their congregations,
Well said. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So they need support, just I'll just use this as an example. If some people in the church are having marital challenges, the pastor might be having marital challenges too, but
Yeah.
can't really share that with the congregation because they may not be equipped to handle that information. So they need their own supports as they support others. And even those situations where it may be something that the pastor needs to refer someone to, say, a clinical person because the matter has gotten too difficult. Um, but I think one of the things that I think we kind of alluded to that I'm concerned about as we move into where we are, just our communities and the situations, is the attack on safety net programs and that impact that it will have potentially on many in our communities. We're looking at right now, like, for example, in Contra Costa County, the Department of Public Health is looking at, over the next 5 years, over $1 billion shortfall. How that can play out for people needing medical care. We're seeing a reduction in SNAP benefits. There already is an anticipation that there will be more people going to food banks for food support because we're seeing the SNAP benefit cutting back. So we've got these different kind of converging storms that are coming. And my fear is that our congregations, particularly our leaders, are not aware of it, so they've not been able to get ahead of some of this stuff. Because what I also fear or am concerned about is many of us look to our churches as a primary place of support. If I need some help, I'm going to my church.
Correct.
And if I'm not a member of a church, I'm going to find a church. Well, I hear Mount Zion. I hear there's a pretty nice pastor over there. I hear Reverend Fisher. He's a good guy. I can go to him with my family's
Yeah.
dilemma. And I expect help from him and his congregation because he's a Christian.
Exactly.
And he's supposed to help me.
Yes. Yeah.
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 So he who lends to the poor lends to God. So I'm thinking that that's where my help is coming from. But it's not that Reverend Fisher may not want to help me, but does he have the resource or the connection to a resource to help me? And it's not personal, but if he has a specific number of people in his congregation that are tithing and giving to the best of their ability, and he has bills to pay and responsibility, he may not be able to step up and help me. And it's not that he doesn't want to. And what I'm saying is how can we position ourselves as churches that we are able to leverage resources so we can help our own people? That's my concern.
Yeah,
Mr.
no, it's a good rhetorical response. You know, how can we step up, or at least be in position to do something when
Right.
you when you're talking to pastors and across, because most of your jurisdiction is West County, is that correct?
Yes.
So most of the pastors you're talking to are in West County.
Right.
Okay, and when you're talking to pastors, and you said something earlier, I just want to use your words. They may be dealing with their own personal issues, and they can't be a resource sometimes because they're resolving these issues for themselves. But when you're talking to them, have they do understand though that they can't be that you can't be the panacea, the all in all care. They've got to do something on the inside. It just can't be one accord.
I think yes, I think they definitely understand that. But I think I'd like to hope that one accord is trying to bring us together so we can find solutions together. That, tell you a quick, funny story, and it's a true story. I was doing organizing work. I started my work in San Francisco, and I was going down the street. As a matter of fact, Pastor Fisher, that your church is on, but I had noticed there was two other churches. Those were the days of Willie Brown and going door to door, kind of meeting pastors and talking to them and getting their story and all of that. And I encountered two churches that were very close together, and one of the questions that I asked them was, what is your vision? What do you want to do, Pastor? For I want to work with the youth. I want to work against violence. I said, wow, wrote it all down. Went to the next church less than a block away. The pastor said the same, almost identical thing as the first pastor. I said, well, do you know Pastor B? No. They were steps away from each other and did not know each other and the same denomination. Let's just, and neither one went to each other and said, hey, I'm Pastor B. Oh, I'm Pastor A. Can we sit down and have some coffee? I'd like to talk. How's your ministry going? You know, there's no connection.
What do you think that's about? What do you think that's about?
Door to door. I think I came to the conclusion a long time ago that unfortunately, sometimes churches work in silos. A pastor can get very fixated on what's going on in his church. And to borrow your terminology, Reverend Fisher, sometimes that's a trick of the enemy too. Because if I get so fixated on my stuff, and Reverend Wade could be sitting there with the answer, but I'm not even talking to him. But I'm steady doing the same repetition in this same cycle. But I can't put my head up to even connect with somebody else. So maybe we can put our heads together. I think that people sometimes value their work more than the work or ministry of others. And they feel like, oh, my ministry is so important. I don't have time to go and fellowship with these other churches because they're not on my level anyway.
Well, I think every church is a different journey for every pastor. But I want to touch something that you said there. I want to ask another question here. Yeah. So you've got to take the One Accord Project though and make it. Would you agree? Or tell me how you make it personal for every church, because Galilee's at a certain point doing a certain thing, and
Oh, right.
Saint ABC Baptist Church is doing it a certain. Well, how do you all adapt? And how have you been successful doing that? Because everybody loves you in this community. So how have you been successful doing that?
Well,
In
I
fact,
think
they did a real nice thing for you on Monday night.
yes,
So
they
they,
did. Yes, they did. Uh, that was a tremendous surprise and blessing. I think one of the things that I like to do is I like to ask questions, and I like to ask people about what they feel is important. So I have two ways I can look at things. I sit in a lot of these county meetings where they talk about money, where they talk about what's getting ready to happen, right? County-wide. Spend hours in those meetings. And then I have the vantage point where I can listen to what the pastors and the community is saying that they believe are critical issues or things that they feel should be addressed. When we started out during COVID, which you brought up, we did 3 years straight of COVID response work. Out of that, we got over 40 churches hosting vaccine clinics. Over 7,000 hard to reach individuals received COVID vaccines as a result of our work. We did messaging campaigns, billboards, radio, the whole nine. And we had consistent meetings with the county epidemiologists, pastors, so they could get accurate, up to date information about the COVID pandemic. We did that 3 years straight, started at the height of the pandemic around the end of 2019, kind of faded out about 22, 23. What we learned doing those church-based clinics was when we had county physicians coming in, volunteering their time to come to North Richmond churches and do vaccines, and people had 15, 20 minutes of FaceTime with a doctor at their church, in the comfort of their church with their pastor right there, they felt, well, maybe I can ask about my high blood pressure medicine and the problems I've been having with that. Maybe I can ask about this. So what we looked at is, wow, what if we could bring a doctor to church, say on a monthly basis, have some snacks, pastors there. Hey, here's Dr. Smith. Ask them anything you want medically for this hour. They are yours. And we started doing that getting the program called Look Up and Live, Ask the Doctor. We did a number of those clinics. People loved them. The doctor that we used, Dr. Sarah Levin, ended up getting an award from Kaiser Permanente for her work with us and the churches, because it was such it is a groundbreaking model, because a lot of people's fear around medical care and dislike and mistreatment in some cases from medical systems made them not want to go to the doctor or not want to get an injection. And then we started hearing from different people and pastors, could you do something about mental health? We have people that could use some support in that way. Or pastors saying, confidentially, hey, this is a lot. A lot of people come to me for counseling. Is there something you could do? So that's how Look Up and Live, Ask the Therapist was birthed. And we've been there ever since because of the need. Now, those are ways that we've been able to assess the needs of the community, is one, hearing what people say, but also looking at data and information that's coming out of reputable sources like the county.
Sister Sabrina, do you recommend that? Hello, good evening. By
Good
the
evening.
way, I do want to ask a follow-up question with that. Do you recommend that pastors should pay attention to what's going on in their counties? Um, to kind of tap into what those numbers are, and then two, kind of want to go back. Um, what motivated you? Because you've been doing this before COVID. So what motivated you to
Right,
start this, to say that
right.
I need to do something and this is what I'm going to do? So that's a two part question there.
Well, thank you for that. As I said, I started my organizing work back in San Francisco back in around the late 90s. I was doing church organizing then. I worked doing political campaigns. That's actually how I started. I was hired by a firm in San Francisco, and my job would be to take either elected officials to churches or to work with churches to get voter turnout for particular candidates or issues. And I did that for many years, was pretty successful at it. But what I found out in doing that work was, yeah, you can gather people, say we're going to support Pastor Fisher. He's running for Board of Supervisors. So I get 30 churches together. See, I was in San Francisco when there was 80 churches in Bayview that were open and functioning and had Black people in them.
Amazing, amazing. That time has passed us.
Yeah, because again, the mass exodus of the African American population, that pastors didn't see that coming and how it would impact their congregations. That's a whole nother story. But I realized, what if I could start an organization where we could stay together all the time? Because what I also saw too was a pattern with elected officials, um, where they drive by churches during election season, they smile, they'll put a little something in the offering, but you'll never see them again until the next election cycle. And it's a usury thing. And so my question that I started asking was, how is it that other ethnic groups give their support, but also get things in return? Their communities get contracts, they get resources, and we seem to always be left out of the loop. But our votes are often the votes that turn things. We're often the ones that turn the tide for elected officials because we tend to vote in a block. So I'm like, why is it that they're always coming up with stuff, and then even if we try to get something out of that elected official, they turn us to a liaison. We never have the elected official cell number like they do. So there's no barrier to the contact. So initially, One Accord was political and issue based. And that's how it started. And then when I became a nonprofit, my organization became a nonprofit in 2008, and have done a lot of work. We did a meeting with Barack Obama's person who was the head of the White House Office of Faith-Based and Neighborhood Partnerships, had over 300 there. Um, we also were able to get out of those meetings. We had several White House meetings. We were able to send a delegation to meet with Obama. Several pastors from Richmond went on that delegation to meet with him at the White House. At the time, they were talking a lot about criminal justice reform and reentry. So there's been several iterations of the work. Right now, we're at mental health and health related work. It's always been a part, but we also did stuff around affordable housing, political stuff, political issues. So voter registration and education. So there's been several iterations, and one of the things that I've always believed at One Accord, the vision is to be able to provide information to pastors, because a lot of the information that I may have or people that I work with may have may not be. Pastors are not just sitting around digging up this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're not trying to spend 3 hours on a Zoom with the head of Department of Public Health hearing about what's getting ready to happen with Medicare. Um, so you need somebody like me who does that stuff to kind of condense that information and share that with you, so you as a leader know what's getting ready to take place, so you can be in a position for your congregation.
When you think about your time with pastors, you also at One Accord you have a project for women. I mean, not all your time is spent with pastors. What are you all doing with women, and how did that emerge? Your group.
Phenomenal, uh, phenomenal group of women. How that happened was initially when I was, processing this, and Pastor Washington and others, we were putting our heads together. Bishop Kelly Woods. Um, I made the distinction around separating gender, because I felt after talking to other people that it would be a good way for people to feel at ease. We have probably consistently about 15 to 20 women or more that meet monthly for the grief support group. It has been, we have different ages. We have women in their 20s up to 75. All
How
in
does
the
that work? You don't need to segregate that out? I mean, seems like what issues to women 20 would have were different than 75. Tell me how that worked.
Oh, I thought that too. What I found too was some women, some of the more seasoned women have kind of built relationships with the younger women, which have been helpful for those younger women, like mentors, so to speak. We have a wonderful therapist, Dr. Barbara Porter, who is a clinical psychologist. And it was interesting when I first met her. I was looking very specifically. I wanted an African American woman. I wanted a woman of faith. I had my list together, and I met Dr. Barbara, and I was sitting there talking to her, and I felt the Holy Spirit say, "She's the one." I said, "No, she's not." Nice little older white lady. She's very sweet, but she's not what I'm looking for. I know what I'm looking for.
My.
Anyway, she starts telling me in the conversation, she's a supervisor for people that are getting their licenses and for social workers. And she says, I've always wanted to do something, go back to doing some clinical work. And she starts saying all this stuff I want to hear, right? And so I said, okay, I think she's the one. And so I said, well, let's try it out. The women love her. Um, she was a Methodist Bible study teacher.
Mm-hmm.
She's seasoned. She's over 70. So she's got some life experience and she's clinically sound. But one of the good things about her is she's highly connected to resources. So if I have a situation with a woman, say, for example, needing services or support outside of the group, Dr. Barbara is already linked to services. So her and that woman can connect around what she needs and get it done seamlessly. And she has connections to doctors. She has connections to other social workers and other resources. A lot of our people need, in some cases, wraparound case management, where somebody just comes in and helps them with some various aspects of their life to get things in order. So, housing, different things. So, she's been a jewel and she's been with us the entire time. All the women love her, hug her. She's like, she's the person.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been there through some very difficult things. A lot of the women in our group have lost children.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'd say almost half of the women in our group have lost children, almost all sons and one daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very painful loss, as you know.
Yeah.
And and she's in the trenches with us.
And it really is a group for grief,
It's
but
grief and it's caregiving
and
because
caregiving.
a lot of the women are caregivers. And that presents a special kind of need because caregiving can really be mentally, emotionally, and physically exhausting.
Well, that can be a part of grief too, caregiving,
Exactly.
watching a
Yeah,
vibrant parent or loved one that used to take care of you maybe, and now you're taking care of them. That can be a form of grief too. Thank you for sharing that because I was one of my other follow-up questions was, who does One Accord Project partner with, in this work, just like, you say that churches should work together and you sound like your group works outside of just One Accord
definitely.
Project and goes and gets those experts to help with those different avenues. And I think that is so wonderful. And I think that we can learn from that. And to that point, what do you recommend? I know that I don't know every pastor in every church in the city of Richmond or in our West County area, but I do know we have several new pastors. What do you recommend to new and old pastors that may have been pastoring a long time? How do they begin? What kind of action plan would you recommend for them to get started into better taking care of the members in this area? They've already got the Bible studies and all that, stuff they have to worry about, but this side of taking care of the member.
I think what I would suggest for pastors to do um, is just begin to ask the question, or a lot of times, if there's a consistent theme in your church, that tends to be what the issue is.
Hmm.
If you have people that are always having, I'll just use this example. Say you have people with adolescent children who are having behavioral issues in school. You've got a group of parents, they're always getting a call from the principal and they're threatening to say put that child on medication or do or put them in special ed or do some kind of action, and you've got 3 or 4 parents and they've got the same cycle going with that same kind of issue. That might be one of the challenges that is unique to your ministry. And then you might want to figure out, how do I find support and resources for these parents? How do I find support and resources for these young people who may themselves need some therapy? Uh, how do I find that? How do I connect to that? If you say, send the mom to us, to our group, and then I pulled out the bar bin and she figures out how to create a plan of action for that mom. Is that a resource? I think that's kind of where I would start. And I think another quick story, San Francisco. I worked for a minute for a program called the Black AIDS Project. Not a popular job. And my job was to go to churches to get them to allow people to come in and talk about HIV. This was prior to Magic Johnson admission. So I would sit down with the pastors, and the data was there. Black people were getting HIV more than any other ethnic group, and all this data. Pastor, can we come and talk about that? Can we bring some experts in and have some information? Not going to encourage fornication, but we just want people to be able to take care of themselves, be wise, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you don't make any references to body parts or sexual activity, yeah, y'all can come. Okay. We're talking about HIV transmission.
Yeah, that's tough.
So what I'm saying is, I'm using that story, and it's a true story. It's a little funny, but pastors have to be able to acknowledge some of the truth that may be uncomfortable about what's happening in our communities and in our churches.
Well, do you think
And
that,
a lot of times we don't want to really deal with it because it's not pleasant.
do you think that that same fear, and I, maybe some of it was fear back then in those early days, that even now today it may not be HIV, but that same mental healthness, that same mental health that we're dealing with and talking about tonight, do you think that same fear may be what hinders pastors or causes them to be hesitant
Yes.
to get
Yes.
involved?
Yes.
Just different disease, but same fear.
Yeah. Yes. I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's that. I think it's stigma for some still. I think it's acknowledgement of your own mental health or negative experiences that you may have had in the past, or family members may have had in the past with mental health support services, because everybody's experiences have not been good. And so you could kind of categorize it and say, well, I remember when we tried to go get help for my cousin, that didn't turn out very well. Or they weren't
You,
treated well.
well, as a pastor, and I may be more on the liberal end of this, but as a pastor, I also have a concern that I don't want to, and I was around back then, and I knew as a pastor, I did not want to be dominated by an outside program. I didn't want that. I didn't want the narrative of what I was trying to teach, especially as a new pastor, and instill and install and put in place. And so I would have give you an example. I'm going to give you a quick story, and then I'm moving on. A guy came to our church one night, and we were in the middle of Bible study, and he took a sledgehammer and sludged me over the head with mass incarceration. You're not concerned about mass incarceration? He says, and you know exactly where I'm headed. Go ahead.
No, I know what you're saying. I think there's a way that you have to ask people, and one, gain their trust, because you don't want them to think that you're coming into their church to do anything disrespectful. Um, I just think that we as a people, um, we have to work on that, like you're saying, because nobody should come into your church and make you feel like their issue should take precedent over your service, your
Yeah.
ministry, your vision.
Yeah.
Nobody
And, and,
should do that.
it just
I don't
happened to
care
be a
what.
night that Malia Cohen had stopped by, and I wanted to talk to Malia. This guy
Yes,
came, and he was coming hard, and he was trying to provoke some guilt. Most people, mass incarceration is a disproportion of African Americans. There's this guilt thing, and this thing you said about how you do it, it's
right.
powerful.
No, you have to. I never I never want to dishonor or disrespect um, the house or the leadership. And I think that's probably why I've survived as long as I have doing this work, because
Yes.
I've worked to honor. Um, and I respect if someone allows me to address their members, to give out information. Those are privileges that you don't play with that, because nobody and I think that some organizers in their zeal and their ignorance, they feel they forget that. This is somebody's church home. You got to be respectful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the number one commandment in the Ten Commandments of the African American Church. The first one is disrespect. Thou shalt not disrespect. Do you know most murders happen because of disrespect?
That's right.
They'll tell you, if you straight disrespect me, man, what was I supposed to do?
There was a there was a group of Baptist ministers that used to meet over on San Jose Avenue. I forgot the name of that church.
Is that paradise?
Yes, Paradise.
Paradise, San Francisco. Okay.
Okay, so at the time I was doing work for Willie Brown, right? But they had a meeting just like your Baptist ministers meeting, probably on a Saturday. I was supposed to go over there and take some materials, but they had a policy of not letting women address their group. And I had all this, stuff. So I was, prepared to just let the leader know and just leave it at the front. And he came out, he said, "Well, we decided you can come in." So I was like, and they were like, you're the first woman we've ever let speak to us. And I was like, wow, okay.
That's an honor. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's progress already.
Sweet people, some of them have gone on to be with the Lord. But I wasn't going to push myself. If I had to leave it in the vestibule with a note and call the pastor later, "Pastor, materials are there for you," I wasn't going to push into that, because, even if I thought, wow, what's that about? That's their policy. And that's how they roll. So I didn't want to violate that. So, so I think back to Reverend Chris' question is that you have to, one, show people love, but when you're trying to engage pastors, new and old, it's a process. I've been inviting a particular pastor to the Monday night men's meetings for almost 2 years. And he just called me for the first time this week. Sister, I want to come to the next meeting. I'm interested in this. I've been inviting him for 2 years. I didn't say, Pastor, I've been inviting you for 2 years. I said, Pastor, that would be wonderful. I said, I know everybody would love to see you. Let me get your information.
Very nice.
It's a process.
Yeah.
It is. Sister Sabrina, what do you do for your mental health? How do you take care of you? All that which you've talked about and all these years that you've been doing it in decades, that's a lot. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of no's and a lot of negativity. And even starting this, I'm sure you face some obstacles. What do
Right.
you do leading this group and then trying to, get pastors together? What do you do to take care of your mental health?
Oh, I'm listening. I'm waiting for this answer. This is going to be good.
One of the things I like to do is I like walking. Like I like to go to the marina, take my tennis shoes, take my notebook, take my Bible, and just kind of zone out. Go out there and just relax. I have one or two trusted friends that I can talk to, and I can even talk to Dr. Barb, and I have, offline. I've used that resource myself when things are kind of hectic, and she's been, there for me to counsel me and give me support. I think my biggest things are like unplugging, be it exercise, be it, spending time with a few trusted friends. I have a intercessory prayer group that I'm a part of that's really helpful. And, sometimes, and I'm learning in this season when to say no, because everybody has got something for you to do. So I'm learning how to politely say, I can't do that. And I feel bad about it. Because before I used to feel guilty, I got to do it, and people will put their needs on you, and their needs could be intense. But I just have to say, oh, I'm sorry, I wish I could, but I can't. Or can I send you to somebody who may be able to help you with that? Because I can't do it.
I love it. I love that. And I think, and Pastor Fisher, please, help too with that. What do you do? And are those some of the things that you do?
I'm playing golf, man. I'm playing basketball. I play over 40 basketball, full court. I'm running up and down the court, and I play golf. And I talk with talk with my pastor friends. But I am so enjoying so many of the things that I'm able to, retired. So, every day you wake up, it's like summer. It's like summer into December. It's like January. It's like I don't go to working. Oh, that big thing is out of the way. So, yeah, mine is really to go play is sports, getting out, running, talking to the wife. I get real silly with the wife. I really enjoy getting silly with the wife. That kind of stuff. I got some really close friends that help me think about great projects that we want to do. So that's something. Sabrina, in fact, there's a project I want to talk to you about at some point.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called the New Harlem Project, and I want to talk to you about that at some point. But that's off of this call.
Okay. I'd love to hear about it. So.
Yeah. Sabrina, go ahead.
I think that Reverend Chris's question is important too, because I think pastors often don't turn off enough. I think they don't turn off enough and, just enjoy themselves and, all the things you described, Reverend Fisher, just enjoying your wife, enjoying sports, getting out, having, sharing visions with your close confidants, um, it's when I got on the call tonight, there was a young lady that I've done some work with through the county. She's has an organization that works with the Pacific Islander community. Very, very smart young woman, very dynamic, probably about 35 years old, but a rising star. I got the announcement that she died last night.
No.
And back to what Reverend Chris's point was, we're in this county network, right, of all these different organizations, and everybody is writing like, this is just shocking. It doesn't make sense. I just saw her 3 weeks ago. She was her same smiley, sweet self. And everybody started out, she did for her community before she did for herself.
Hmm.
And and I know she was running hard for her people.
Mhm.
We talked many times. Prolific grant writer, as young as she was, writing big grants and getting them. Um, but I was like, everybody kept saying the same thing. She was tireless, she never said no, she worked for her people. And now she's gone. So it kind of makes you wonder what Reverend Chris just brought up about, self-care and us taking care of ourselves and our pastors and their spouses and their churches, and people just paying more attention to self-care.
Yeah. 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 Sister Sabrina, we thank you tonight. This has been wonderful, and it's a blessing to get an hour of your time,
Yeah.
and that
Thank you
hour
for
went by
saying yes to
so,
us and not saying no.
and it went by so quick.
Wow. I
It went
know.
by
I,
so quick.
I
Um,
know.
any final closing thoughts here?
Of course, I just want to thank you both for this opportunity just to share. And I pray that we'll be continuing to share more about how we can help our people.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate everything, and thank God for you and the work that you are doing. And we hope to be able to support you. You call on us. I want you to know I try to make it a point to come and not. And I believe there's a difference between supporting something and being engaged in something. And so I come for engagement when I was at the meeting the other night, and not just because I'm supporting, but because I'm there for me and to listen and to talk and engage folks. So thank you for what you've been doing in our community, and may God bless and God keep you.